Off-camera flash is one of those things in photography that everybody's got an opinion about. Everybody knows how to do it better than somebody else does. And it's kind of true. I mean, you're going to develop your own way of working with off-camera flash. And it's gonna be the best way for you to do it because it's going to be your way. But like with a lot of things in photography, there's not just one way to do something, and that is a good thing, and it's also a thing that can complicate things, especially for beginners. So we're going to talk about off-camera flash photography here. I just want to give you a quick overview, and this should help you on your journey into getting to know what you're doing with off-camera flash. Now, I'm going to cover flash units, flash triggers, light stands, mounts, the actual thing that you are going to connect your flash to your light stand with. Those are flash mounts, umbrella adapters and brackets. And I'm going to cover modifiers. All right, so these are the main components of a starter flash, off-camera flash setup. All right, so let's just get right into it. All right, so flash units. Now, I started with a basic Vivitar shoe mount flash back in, I would say, about 1980. I had a Minolta camera. We're talking film, okay? There was no digital back then, at least not for regular folks. I started with a film camera. It was a Minolta, and I'm pretty sure I used a Vivitar flash along with that. Even though Minolta had their own flash, it wasn't as high powered as a Vivitar. That was on camera. There was no off-camera flash for me at that time. I remember even shooting events as a kid, and I used my flash on camera. By 1990, I started using off-camera flash, and these were Novatron flash heads. Now, I had no training, so I basically went off of instinct, and I read a few books and maybe saw some things in some magazines and just experimented with the little used kit that I bought. I think it was 2 lights, and it came with a very basic flash meter. So I learned how to use off-camera flash in those early days in that way. Later on, by mid-2000s, 2005 or so, I was using alien bees, light years ahead of the Novatron in terms of just ease of use and something that I could understand. I could understand how to use these, but still, that was manual flash, and that was with, I was still using a flash meter to get my settings correct. But by then, we started getting into digital photography, and that made the flash meter a lot less important as far as getting good exposures goes. I didn't move on away from shoe mount flashes at that time. I actually started mixing and matching the alien bees with shoe mount flashes because I was doing the off-camera flash thing, and I could actually trip multiple flashes in a flash setup with one simple flash trigger, and I was using Pocket Wizards at the time. Now, Pocket Wizards are still viable. They're still really reliable radio triggers, but they just tend to be a lot more expensive than the cheaper Chinese third-party versions that you can get now, which, for me at least, have been just as reliable or more so in the many years that I've been using them. We'll get into triggers in a moment here, but and I've also liked using portable strobes more recently. Something like the Godox AD 400 Pro, that's really been something I've been impressed with. It's very easy to use. Now, all the different kinds of light that I've used, I've had good results with all of them. As they say, light is light, but I have to say, good lights are better. And off-camera flash lighting is generally better than on-camera flash. So light is light, but where you place that light and the quality of the lighting gear you have, and you can even get into things like the color output, color casts that the different lights put out. There are differences. Light is light, but one light is different from the other, and one light is more than likely going to be better than the other yeah, especially when you're dealing with color photography. All right, let's get into flash triggers now. There are two main types of flash triggers. There's dumb flash triggers, and there's TTL compatible that will work with the matching flash units, like say the Godox X wireless radio system. That's a really good example because they make flash triggers. All of their flash triggers work with all of their flash units, whether it's the bigger, studio type strobes, even though they are portable and battery packed, or it's their smaller flash units that are also speedlight type or on-camera flash type units. You can get a trigger for your camera from Godox that will just trip off all of the lights in your setup, and they can be all different kinds of Godox lights, and they'll all work. And you're going to get the flash trigger that is compatible with your camera's TTL system. So Godox makes flash triggers that are compatible with Canon, with Nikon, with Sony, and these you get the trigger that's compatible with your brand of TTL, your camera's brand of TTL, and you can use any of the Godox flashes and they'll just work. Now, why would someone purchase and use a dumb flash trigger as opposed to one of these more sophisticated TTL capable ones? Well, because dumb triggers are just maybe a little cheaper and definitely easier to use in terms of the features and the capabilities. They're just simpler flash trigger units. The problem with dumb triggers is that they basically just trip a flash. So your flash units you're going to be using them in manual mode when you're using a dumb trigger. Whereas with the more sophisticated TTL compatible triggers or the smarter triggers, your camera can communicate with those remote flash units via TTL signal. And so you've got a lot more options there. Plus the smarter triggers allow you to control your flash units from the camera position, and you can control those flash units in discrete groups, which with the dumb triggers, you're going to have to walk around to each flash unit and adjust the power manually every time you want to make a change to the power. But yeah, the smarter triggers can also do manual flash. It's just that you'll be able to adjust those settings manually from the camera position. So that's a really good benefit. Now, given the choice, I would just recommend you avoid the dumb triggers at this point and go with the TTL compatible smarter triggers. All right, so let's talk about light stands now. I see light stands as coming in two different varieties. Okay, you've got the C stands, which are very durable, very rugged stands, and I would prefer to use C stands if they weren't so heavy and bulky. They're just not compact, but they are very sturdy. Okay, so if you're going on location with C stands, and you probably want someone to help you drag them around. But otherwise, I like to use lightweight stands. They're usually fine. I recommend stands that can support at least 8 pounds of load. That includes anything that you put on top of that stand, the flash bracket, the light itself, whether it's a strobe or a flash, and the modifier. It's got to support at least 8 pounds. And I like my flash stands to be able to extend to at least 8 feet, right around 7 or 8 feet. If I need something a little more heavy duty, I'll use a similar stand, still lightweight, but it just is a little bit bigger, and it would support something in the 20-pound range. And these are actually the stands that I use for my background support. So I'll use one of those sometimes if I've got a big if I'm using like a portable bigger strobe like the AD 400 Pro with a nice glow softbox on it. All right, so you've got your light stand, you've got your flash. You need something to mount your flash to your light stand. And that's going to usually involve something called an umbrella adapter or a flash bracket. There are a couple of different types that I use. There's a traditional umbrella adapter, and there is the S-type with the Bowens mount. Now, I really like the S-type because I'm able to not just use an umbrella like I can with the traditional umbrella adapter, but I can also just pop on different types of modifiers, like the Glow softbox, because it's got a Bowens type connector on it. And this S-type bracket allows you to use something like that. You just twist it on there and click it into place, and you're good to go. And speaking of modifiers, I love to use shoot-through umbrellas, and I like to use softboxes. Now, the softboxes really usually is going to give you the most consistent and controllable quality of light. A shoot-through umbrella, though, is so compact and so inexpensive, and it's got the added benefit, depending on what you're going for in terms of what type of light you're looking for. It's got the added benefit of allowing light to escape out the back and just spreading it around the room. So you've got that light concentrated on your subject, but you've got some extra bounce lighting, especially in smaller rooms with light colored walls. You got some extra bounce lighting coming out the back and maybe out the sides of the edges of the umbrella, and that light is going to hit the walls and bounce and come in from different directions towards your subject and fill in those shadows a little bit. So it could give you a little bit of a softer looking light. A softbox, on the other hand, has a back side to it, so you're not going to see light escaping out the back. So it's all going to be directed towards the front panel. It's also got a flat front panel usually, and this gives you a little more consistency as far as the way that the light has access to the subject. Whereas the umbrella is curved, so you've got more light hitting the subject from a closer central point, and then less light hitting the subject from the outer curved circumference of the umbrella. Whereas a softbox, it's just one flat spread of light that doesn't move away from the subject, as far as its surface goes. I recommend something, whether it's an umbrella or a softbox, something at least 36 to 40 inches minimum, okay, as far as the surface of that modifier goes. I have used modifiers for off-camera flash as small as 2 feet by 2 feet, so 24 inches across or so, but I've struggled with the results on those. You're going to have to get in really, really close and have that softbox just out of frame if you want a good, softbox effect on your subject. Otherwise, you're going to have to, I don't know, that's a really small area to work with. I mean, that might work with some tabletop photography, like some still life photography or something like that. But I really would recommend, if you're going to be doing portraits, stick with something that's at least 40 inches diameter across for your umbrella or your softbox. So those are the basic items that you're going to need for your first off-camera flash setup. You're going to need, of course, your flash unit, and you can do this with just one setup here. Now, what I've described here, you can build a flash stand with a modifier, and that'll be one light. You can use that one light and maybe a reflector to help fill in the shadows on the shadow side of your subject. But after that, you can bring in a second light, build it pretty much the same way. And these lights don't have to be identical. You might use different modifiers or different size modifiers for each one. You might not even use a modifier, especially for a rim light or a hair light. But yeah, you can add on to this. So that's where we get the one light, the two light, and the 3-point lighting. And you can also include a background light with that. So the number of lights that you can use in a setup is really up to you. Most people stop at 3 or 4 lights. But yes, you can definitely start with just one. And actually, I always recommend to my students that they just start with one light, because you really want to master what you can do with that. That would be your key light. That's the light that your entire lighting setup would be built upon anyway. So you start with the one light, you learn how to use it, add a second light, add a third light, And if you want to, then move on to more lights. Now, I've got a free off-camera flash guidebook that you can download right now that really goes into more detail about not only how to put your first setup together, but how to actually use it. There's a link in the description below for that, and it comes with some nice bonuses too. So be sure to go ahead and check that link out down in the description below. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this little overview. And if there's anything that you'd like me to get a little more specific on, just let me know in the comments below, and I will try to get a video out for that ASAP. All right, that's about it for today, guys. I'll see you next time.